Hello, dear friends. Here we are. It's midnight here in the East Coast of the United States and probably some other time elsewhere, but it doesn't matter. What's important, we are together. Hello, friends. Hi, Sylvia. Hi, Kasia, Tanya, and Joyce, and Josara. Thank you, friends. We're together. Remember, we are together cherishing these beautiful lessons that were granted to us by the loving spirits that coordinate the efforts on the earth, guided by Jesus. 30 days of lessons, of good news with the Master Jesus. Can't get better than that. And for those who are getting in right now, let me share with you the mentors of Kardec Radio, the Spiritist Sort of Virginia. They kindly asked us after the 2016 elections in the United States. They said, Vanessa, let's study Paul and Stephen and the Book Good News together and share the study with everyone. Let us raise our optimism. Let us raise our levels of kindness as well. And did you know that Emmanuel has a beautiful message in the book Living in Spring that goes hand in hand with it? He says to us, it's chapter 137, he says that Jesus came not so we get stuck in this religious thought, like the one that is hierarchical, etc., but to work on our human goodness. That's all that is. So we are now receiving this good news. Are you ready for today? Remember yesterday we were talking about how do you feel when somebody says, I'm going to give you some good news. What is your first reaction? I was asking Carlos the other day. He's so funny. He's like, okay, Vanessa, give me the good news. And I said, what is your reaction? It varies, of course. Each person is different, but it's important for us to feel this good news. It's not about knowing, oh my gosh, I know so much about the scriptures. Like Nicodemus, he knew it all. Big deal. Jesus told him, you forgot to feel, Nicodemus. Have we forgot to feel? Maybe, yeah, 2,000 years went by. Yeah, I love Jesus, but I don't feel it. But now, thanks to Chico Xavier, thanks to Humberto de Campos, to Emmanuel, many others, we can feel it. Oh yeah, Spiritism is amazing. So we yesterday talked about the preface of the book Good News and chapter 1. The book is translated into English and awaits its publication. It's already at the hands of the president of the Brazilian Spiritist Federation, and we trust that sooner or later everyone is going to be able to receive this book, because after all, it's already in Spanish, even in Finnish, but in English, come on. We need it, please, right? Hi, Adilson, Rita Di Cassia, Ceisa. Thank you so much, friends. So now chapter 2. Beautiful, beautiful. We're talking about two moms today. Talking about the feelings of moms. It begins. Chapter 2. Jesus and the Precursor. What is this? It begins. Let us listen, because Humberto de Campos, his way of writing it, it's a masterpiece. It's so beautiful. It's poetic at times. His narrative, it's so deep. And he brings elements that are unprecedented. Let us listen, right? After the famous introduction of Jesus to the doctors in the Temple of Jerusalem, Mary was visited by Isabel and her son in Mary's humble little house in Nazareth. Here we have many elements, right? Many elements to discuss. Remember, Jesus was a teenager, like preteen, teenage years, right? And he is introduced to the doctors in the synagogue in Jerusalem. They go back to Nazareth. And Mary, the mother of Jesus, lives in a humble little house. Pause. Feeling. This description is not for us to know, oh, she lived in a little house. No. Feel it. She, the mother of Jesus Christ, the Messiah expected by everyone. For us, we know he's the governor of the planet. He lived in a little house in Nazareth. How do you feel about it? That's our first quiz of the day, because we need to feel it in order to understand his coming. He lived in a little house in Nazareth. What does that mean? Was he playing humble? No. But for us, we need to feel when, as Chico Xavier used to say, not only about spiritist centers, but for our families as well. When the house grows too big, love disappears. We need to be like cozy together. I'm not saying like tied up together, but closer. These big homes. I already moved from a big home. I said, Carlos, thank you very much, but no thank you. I don't like big homes. It doesn't make any sense. We're too far from one another. And today I was reading a research that was just released. Thank you for the love, friends. We all feel it. And the research says in psychology that when people feel lonely, they feel lonely not because they are alone, but because they lack the closeness to people. It's not about having friends. It's about how close we are to people. How close are we to people? How close? Are we close? Let's meditate. How close are we to people? No wonder people are feeling so lonely. Because we have relationships, but we're afraid of being too close. And you know why? Because we get to be hurt by those that are the closest to us. Don't be afraid. Jesus wasn't afraid. He was not afraid of being close. He was not afraid at all, though he knew where he was coming to. But are we afraid of being too close? We need to. For example, in our relationships at home, in our communities. Don't feel like, oh, I'm so silly, I'm stupid. Some people say, see, I'm stupid. I give of myself, and people always take it for granted. Don't take offense. It's people's issues. We trust. We open our heart. Whatever they're going to do with it, the heart is in their hands, but you still keep yours inside, right? You give your heart, copy, but you keep yours inside, meaning you open up. But it does, you multiply your love. That's what I mean. When you copy, I'm saying you multiply it. You send it out without fear. We will never lose anything by trusting. Like Jesus trusted everyone. He trusted Judas too. Though he knew Judas was in training and he was not complying with the coaching program, let's say this way. But anyhow, Jesus invested and kept investing, and even after the fact, he kept investing, and still does to date. Jesus keeps coaching us and trying again and again and again and again and again. What a message. So they are there, and Isabel is the cousin of Mary. Her son is John the Baptist. Exactly. After the usual greetings, during the discussion of family affairs, the two cousins, Mary and Isabel, started to talk about their children, whose births were preceded by remarkable events and surrounded by unusual circumstances. You see, they were normal mothers. They talked about their children. They were not like, oh, we don't need to talk about them because they are sent by God. The angels already told it. And that's how some people play. When they know that their children have some extra gifts, they're like, nah, I don't need to worry because, no. If we love, we are focused. We do what we need to do. We don't delegate to anybody. It's our task. If you're a mother, if you're a father, it's your task. Until they become a certain age, and then we change the role. It doesn't mean we're not no longer parents. We change, we transform the interaction. As much as when somebody discarnates, we change the interaction with them, the dynamics, but that relationship still goes on, right? So they talked about it while the patriarch Joseph, father of Jesus, attended to the last daily needs of their humble workshop. He was telling about the dynamics of home. The two mothers entertained themselves with a conversation, affectionately confiding their dearest motherly concerns. See how loving Umberto de Campos is, my friends. He's telling us, hi Norma, Angelita, Sunshine, Aidan. Good morning, you're funny, Aidan. And Rita de Cassia. You see, beautiful way of describing the dearest motherly concerns. Nowadays, parents are afraid of being concerned about their children. They think it's shameful. Even in the United States, people are like, no, my child is independent. Let them do this. And they are just 2 years old, 3 years old, 4 years old, 5 years old. I'm like, please. They are independent, but now they depend on you. Don't delegate that. Please don't. Right? Yes, we feel the love of mothers. So important. That role is not possible to be delegated. We can't. What amazes me, said Isabel. Let's listen to the dialogue. It's beautiful. Many lessons. What amazes me, said Isabel, with a loving smile, so we can picture, projecting your screen in front of you, the dialogue, because Umberto de Campos paints the whole scenario, and we can see it. With a loving smile, Isabel was saying, what amazes me is John's temperament, John the Baptist, given to the deepest meditations despite his young age. Often I search for him at home in vain. Then I find him almost always among the sycamores or walking along the scorching hot roads as if his mind were dominated by deep thoughts. We are learning a lesson here. St. Augustine, in the Gospel according to Spiritism, chapter 14, item 9. Very wisely he says, study your child from the get-go, the crib. For us, we can study when we are gestating them too. We can feel more than anyone else who the Spirit is. And we better know ourselves so we can get to know who they are. The difference between what is ours and what is the baby's. So St. Augustine says, study, because you see the tendencies from the very beginning at a cradle. And here we have a teenager in his first years of his teenage years, already showing his past lives, acquisitions, let's say this way, acquisitions, virtues blossoming. Often people talk about adolescence in the negative. Spiritism restores adolescence for us. Let us stop this story about adolescence being a curse. I was an adolescent, you were, not necessarily were troubled. It varies. But if we project our child is going to be troubled, we're pushing them to trouble. Look around. You know, every time you get a spirit's book, did you know that the mediums were teenagers? Quite young, by the way. They were teenagers. All the books you get from Kardec, teenage mediums. Blessed teenagers. And you think they're the only ones? Chico Xavier began at 17, Divaldo Franco at 17. He started the Mission of the Way when he was 20, together with Uncle Nielsen. And we have many people around the world who start good deeds when they are quite young. Look at Haroldo Dutra Dias. For those who know him, he's a Brazilian speaker, and he began quite young, and many people here as well, they start quite young. And we need to use Spiritism as an inspiration to redefine adolescence on the earth, okay? Because it can be quite blessed. Look at Gioni Correia is here, and she agrees. You know why? I have to say this. I know the adorable little Vanessa. No, she's not so little now. Aloysio and Gioni, I know them. I met Vanessa, the little one, who is now 21, when she was 3, almost 4. And believe it or not, she's a wonderful lady, young lady. She went through adolescent years without any event. Adorable, very strong, wonderful parents, very caring, very loving. That's the secret too. Forgive me, no judgment, but we're just saying, let's trust adolescents. Because our friends here are telling us, John the Baptist was an adolescent. He already had these good impulses he acquired from previous lives, right? Tanya Stewart is telling us she started when she was 15. You see, here we go, friends. Now, what does Mary say? Are you curious about Mary? Me too, Mary. Let's hear from her. She's talking about our master. These children, in my view, replied Mary, the soft gleam of her eyes intensifying, so we can picture. In my view, these children bring the divine light of a new path to humanity. My son, too, is like that. So he's saying that Jesus is like that, very reflective, meditating, and he causes me constant concern because he's different. And even Mary, in spite of everything, she was concerned. Sometimes I find Jesus alone by the waters, other times in deep conversation with the travelers, heading to Samaria or to the remote villages near the lake. Usually, I hear his charitable words towards the washerwomen, the passers-by, to the suffering beggars. He speaks of his communion with God with an eloquence that I never found in the observations of our wise men, and I worry constantly about his fate. How moving is this? This is our master in his childhood, in his preteen, teenage years. That's how he was. Next time you want to know what he did, here we have a summary. Here we have a summary. What did he used to do? He was like meditating by the waters or in deep conversations with everyone, indistinctively of what the person was. And he was always charitable in his words. Oh, it doesn't surprise us, does it? Of course it makes sense. It makes sense. He is the master. He would bring about that loving attitude from the beginning. Remember, yeah, you feel the love too, me too. We're getting to know a little more about our master. And these revelations by the spirits are telling us about, giving tips for all of us about Do the childhood, the importance of childhood. If we see little things, let's correct with love. Let's make adjustments. Do not let the little things go by freely. No, no, no. We need to lovingly go down and like, sculptures. We're sculpting the details. We're sculpting our children, because actually they're not ours. But in this case, she's saying, he talks about things I've never heard, even from the wisest men. But I, as a mother, worry about his fate. Isn't she funny? I'm saying funny in a very respectful way, because Mother Mary is adorable. Despite all the values of faith, murmured Isabel with conviction, we mothers always have our spirit shaped. Hello friends, we're back. We had some internet issues, but we're back. And we're back here talking about Mary and Isabel. They're together and they are talking about their children. They are in Mary's home, and Mary is talking about her concerns about Jesus, while Isabel is talking about John the Baptist. And then we have here the whole conversation. Hello, Joyce and Publio. Forgive us for the internet issues. So, Mary and Isabel are talking about what? They are talking about hi, Frank. They are talking about the very fact that they're concerned about their children, Isabel and Mary, mother of John the Baptist, mother of Jesus. And let me read to you, since we are here with the book Good News. Well, Mary then, moved and carried away by loving worries. You see the way Humberto de Campos describes loving worries. Just a few days ago, she says, we were in Jerusalem for the traditional celebrations, and the ease with which he used his line of reasoning to answer the questions that were presented by the teachers of the temple left us all nervous and perplexed. His science cannot be found in this world. It comes from God, that certainly manifests itself through the pure lips of his. Noting his answers, Eleazar called Joseph aside and warned that the boy seems to be born for the downfall of many powerful individuals in Israel. Isn't that interesting, friends, that Mary is telling about what happened, her concerns about Jesus? How many of us, we are concerned about our children naturally, as he says, loving worries, but at the same time, Mary sees further down the line. She says, the knowledge he has is not of this world. Hi, Felipe. Welcome back, Aldilson and Katia. Thank you for your patience with us here. So, as Isabel paid careful attention to her words, Mary proceeded. Her eyes were teary after a brief pause. Can you feel Mother Mary, how she was? Mother Mary, the mother of Jesus, was a loving mother. She was a very devoted mother. She knew, the angel said who he was, like who he was representing, like God sent him. Of course, God sent all of us, but meaning he had the particular mission that nobody else could do. And there he is, dear friends. There we have our dear Mother Mary. Can we feel her? That's how she is. And she says with tears in her eyes, she's deeply moved. Aware of that warning, I sought Eleazar, who is the doctor of the temple in Jerusalem, in order for him to intercede for Jesus through his valuable relationships with the temple's authorities. You see, for this much, Jesus was going to be in the school of the synagogues. And I say this much figuratively, but we're just saying, see where the mother's coming from. See where Jesus was. You see, Umberto de Campos going to give us unprecedented details. I thought of his unprotected childhood. Mother Mary, you see, loving worries. Even the angel Gabriel came and said about Jesus, but still she's concerned. Hi, Andrea. So she says, and I fear for his future. This is Mother Mary. Forgive me for repeating this a million times. Eleazar promised to become involved in his fate. However, when returning to Nazareth, my fear increased tremendously. I spoke with Joseph in greater detail about the little one, since I was worried about preparing him adequately for life. However, in the days that followed, thank you, Jussara, also for your patience. So she says, however, in the days that followed our conversation, Joseph and Mary, Jesus approached me in the morning, because usually in the morning, he was so charitable, moms are more refreshed to have these conversations, because in the afternoon and the evening, moms are already like depleted, right? So Jesus was very kind to come in the morning. And then he questioned, because it's a strong questioning. Mother, this is Jesus. What do you want from me? Haven't I been the testimony of my fellowship with the Father in heaven? We're back, Marco. Thank you also for your patience. Our internet just disappeared. So, Jesus is asking her, Mother, what do you want from me? Haven't I been the testimony of my fellowship with the Father in heaven? Highly surprised by the question, I answered hesitantly. This is a little one talking to his mom, with respect, but with firmness. And she says, I care for you, my son. I recognize that you need better preparation for life. And Umberto de Campos describes, but as if he had full knowledge of what was in my heart, Jesus pondered, Mother, all useful and generous preparation in the world is precious. Let me repeat. He says, all useful and generous preparation in the world is precious. But I am already with God. My Father, however, wishes that we exemplify all that which is good. Thus, I will choose the best school. I want to go there. What is the best school? Do you know? Now we're going to get to know. What is the best school for Jesus? He chose the best school. What is it? On the same day, in spite of the wonderful promises about him that the sages had made in his presence, Jesus approached Joseph and humbly asked him to be admitted into his line of work. Since then, as if he wanted to teach us that the best school for God is home. The best school for God is home and self-effort. The best school for God is home and self-effort. Let us repeat this. The best school, sorry. Yeah, even the cell phone cannot believe it. The best school is home and self-effort. And we are talking about a crisis in education, especially in the United States, not only, but in the United States. Our schools are very concerning, very concerning, very concerning. If you send a kid to school, you should be concerned, because that preparation is not very generous in many ways in regards to the formation of character. So he says the best school is home. So, friends, if we are parents to be, or if we're parents, one thing we know, that task, that mission, we cannot delegate to anybody, not even to grandparents. People can help out because we live in a family constellation, but our one-on-one with our children, we cannot delegate it. Leon Denis is even stronger in that regard. He says we should never delegate our time with our kid to anybody unless it's extremely needed, and not necessarily, and in a way, we should watch out when we send babies to daycares. They need their parents. They need people who love them dearly. No wonder the problems we are having in colleges, universities, and schools in the United States. Yes, right? The mass shootings. Why? Because children are sent to these places so parents can do what they need to do and they want to do. So these places become arid, dry in regards of love, because teachers are also overwhelmed, and we cannot ask one teacher to be loving and kind to 35 students if when we have one kid we're already overwhelmed. That's not charitable at all on our side. So we're talking about the best school, Jesus said, is home and self-effort. Home and self-effort. Home and self-effort. Concluded the mother with simplicity. Hi, Gustavo. And he finishes wood in the shop, and then the hammer and the axe, filling the house with cheer, with his sweet joy. That's Jesus, our master. These are the good news we're learning from Humberto de Campos. Can you imagine a preteen coming home and cheering everyone up? This is our master. You think he was talking about the good news without feeling it? He walked the talk. He was joyful. Here is the proof. We have here Humberto de Campos telling us that he would work with his dad, work hard. Friends, this is the governor of the planet, doing the simplest of works. Let's meditate on this. Simplify our lives and the lives of our children. They're stressed and overwhelmed because we want them to do extra after school activities and extra activities and extra. And you know the extra they need? Extra of love. They need us to stop everything. Hug them, play with them, be with them. Yeah, that's what we need to do. Give them love. Make them feel that they're accepted no matter what. That we're not superior to them just because we're parents. Because we're not. Even Kardec in the Spirit's book, he asks the spirits if it's possible that our children are more evolved than us. And these spirits answer in a way that is quite surprised. They say, most often than not, they are more elevated than us. And why do we use our temporary authority to exercise and power struggle with our kids? Why? We don't need to. We don't need to. It's not a matter of power. It's a matter of love. The power of love, not authority. So Isabel listened attentively to Mary's story. And after other practical matters, both of them observed that the first shadows of the night were descending on the landscape, graying the cloudless sky. The woodshop was already closed, and Joseph sought the serenity of the home's interior for rest. You see, Umberto de Campos is describing the vibrational tone of the home of Mary and Joseph and Jesus and others. Serene. It was serene. We need to cherish at home our serenity and create the serenity field with love and mutual trust and cooperation. It's not easy, but we need to strive for it. And then the two mothers looked at each other somewhat unsettled, asking themselves where their two children could have gone. They're like, oh my God, where are they? They were children. Nazareth, with its landscape that is among the most beautiful of all Galilee, is perhaps the most beautiful corner of Palestine, said Umberto de Campos. Its modest and rocky streets. Google a little bit of Nazareth so you can picture the scenarios that Jesus lived in, okay? If you don't know it yet. Its modest and rocky streets, its tiny homes, and its unique shops are grouped within a broad hollow on top of the mountains north of Israelian. The vista is narrow and uninteresting, yet those who go up farther, where the highest of all small houses are, will find, for the astonished eye, the most beautiful view. The sky seems to stretch, covering the wonderful panorama in an infinite expanse. Mary and Isabel spotted their sons. Where were they? You're wondering? Me too. Where were they? Side by side. The sons were side by side on a height, bathed by the afternoon's last rays. From a distance, one had the impression that Jesus' hair fluttered in the soft high breezes. His small index finger pointed out to John the landscapes that multiplied in the distance, as a great general would explain the details of his plans to a trustworthy soldier. He's reading to us the emotional body language, right? Before his eyes were the Samaria mountains, the summit of Megiddo, the heights of Gilboa, the narrow outline of Tabor, which later on would be remembered for the moment of transfiguration, the valley of the sacred river of Christianity, the ridges of Safed, the Gulf of Clafa, and the elevated scenery of Peru, in a superb set of hills and valleys besides the crystal clear waters. Who could know what the solitary conversation that they had? Distant in time, we would assume that this was the first union on earth between love and truth. Let's listen from Umberto de Campos. Remember, in the preface, he shared with us that he learned these passages in the School of the Gospels in the spiritual realm. The preface of the book talks about it. So he is analyzing according to what he learned. He's saying, this is the first union on earth between love and truth, Jesus and John the Baptist, for the conquest of the world. We know, however, that on the following morning, when the precursor was leaving the company of his loving mother, Isabel asked Jesus, with graceful interest, "Don't you want to come with us?" And Jesus, the little carpenter from Nazareth, prophetically replied with profound kindness, "John will live first." Right? After a few years, we'll find the Baptist in his glorious task, paving the way to the truth, preceding the divine work of love that the world would know in Jesus Christ. Hi, Andrea. I know we're always learning with our children, right? What a blessing. So here Umberto de Campos is telling us that John the Baptist represented the truth and Jesus represented love. he's telling us that John the Baptist and Jesus worked together as teamwork fashion, right? In a teamwork fashion. So prophetically, Jesus said John the Baptist will leave first. And after a few years, we'll find him in the glorious path, and he would actually precede the divine work of love that the world will know as Jesus' work. Now, I want to read to you. I'm going to skip 2 paragraphs just so we go to one important thing. So we do another quiz. Yes. And he says, John was the truth, and in his task of refinement, truth tore him apart and hurt him as he allowed himself to make extreme sacrifices. When we are committed to the truth, people may not like it. Like Salome, they may want our head. Well, so be it. We're committed to the truth. Sacrifices are made for it. Like the pain that precedes the powerful manifestations of light within the heart, it receives the plain block of marble and chisels away its roughness so that the labor of love emerges in its divine purity. John the Baptist was the clamoring voice in the desert. As a laborer from the first hour, he is the rough symbol of the truth that plucks the strongest roots of the world, so that the kingdom of God prevails in all hearts, expressing the strict discipline that precedes the spontaneity of love, the struggle that breaks apart the shows of the pathway. John is the first sign of the active Christian at war within his own imperfections in his inner world, in order to establish within himself the sanctuary of his accomplishment with Christ. Stop for a moment. There is a revelation here that Emmanuel repeats in other books and André Luiz as well. And I'm going to repeat to us so we can study and ask about ourselves and feel it. He says, strict discipline that precedes the spontaneity of love. We learn in the book of Evolution into Worlds by André Luiz, and in other books by Emmanuel, that the law of life is such that first we need to create a habit in order to spontaneously present the acquisition we have acquired. Meaning, discipline comes first and then the spontaneity. Okay? For us as parents, educators, and even for ourselves, we are learning with Spiritism a law of life. This story we hear nowadays, let the child choose whatever they like. Yeah, they can choose if they want pasta now or rice. Okay. That's not a big deal. But like eating or not eating, not negotiable. Why? Discipline. I'm not going to take a shower, non-negotiable. I'm not going to study, non-negotiable. Strict discipline precedes spontaneity of love. I want to play, but now we can't. Now we're in the Spiritist Center. Oh, but they're just so children. Yeah, that's good. I remember when I was a child, and I used to go to Spiritist centers, and when I spent like 3 months every year in my grandparents' home, there was nobody to babysit us at home when they went to Spiritist centers. And certain days they had these obsession meetings. And my brothers and I had to participate, not at the table, because we're children, but we had to sit in the same room, listening to this obsession process and being quiet. And believe it or not, my grandparents often asked us with much love. They said, stay quiet, stay still, and close your eyes. Think of Jesus. Thanks to that discipline, I'm here today. My life would have been completely different if I were not given those moments of exercise, self-control. And still, I need to learn a lot about it. But I'm just sharing with you that the spirits are right. Discipline comes first, spontaneity later. You don't have anything become second nature if we don't acquire the habit for the automatism of life. Throughout the book Evolution in Two Worlds, André Luiz is going to make a case for it. He's going to say, forget this thing about spontaneity if we don't discipline the child, if you don't discipline the spirit, the immortal soul, we're not going to conquer higher levels. Remember, it's about effort and repetition. Effort and repetition. Effort comes first. Repetition. And in this effort and repetition, we start doing things automatically. So people may not be used to doing a certain thing. But if we practice out of our own discipline and the discipline for everything in life, then it becomes spontaneous, automatic, right? Yes, we should. You're right, Andre and Tanya. We should do the same thing. The same thing. John the Baptist, he learned about discipline, and Jesus did too. As a child and a teenager, he stopped at the shop of his father to work there, and then later he came home and cheered up everyone. He was always serving, always helping, always, because he's the master. But the good news for us is that if we keep making effort and repetition, that's the line of work for discipline, naturally we're going to open up the heart for love. Strict discipline that precedes the spontaneity of love. And that's why Jesus said of John the Baptist, of the sons of women, John the Baptist is the greatest of all. Why? The discipline, the commitment to the truth. Final therapeutic question for us. Where are we regarding loving discipline? We, not our kids, not the people who we work with, ourselves. Scale 0 to 10. We need to rate it. We need to do this the self-discovery. Where are we regarding discipline? And discipline is not about time. Oh, the meeting starts at 9, we're there at 9. No, no, no. It's about discipline of everything. Thoughts, feelings, words, action. Today somebody was telling me about the lack, of hygiene that some people have. I was reading it somewhere. And then Mentor Joseph said to me, we should be concerned about our lack of mental hygiene. Lack of mental hygiene when we have too many judgmental thoughts and feelings. Why can't we just be simple and open our hearts to the discipline of love? Discipline. Thinking goodness always. Remember Emmanuel saying in the book Living Spring, chapter 137, he says to us that Jesus came so we could attend to the good. He came for us so we could exercise this goodness, this kindness inside of us. How do we do it? We need to put ourselves in a disciplined system, in a systematic coaching program for the soul. Systematic. Every day, let's make exercises then to discipline from thoughts, then to feelings, then to words and actions. Let us exercise here the discipline of thoughts. Discipline of thoughts. Let us be committed. This is December 5th, the December month, when we celebrate the coming of Jesus and the bringing of the good news. Let us exercise from now till midnight tomorrow and focus on this exercise, the discipline of our thoughts. As Joanna de Angelis says, substituting negative thoughts for positive ones. Negative thoughts for positive ones. negative for the positive, and then strictly disciplining our thoughts. Soon we're gonna feel the spontaneity of love, as Humberto de Campos is describing here, telling us about the cousin of Jesus, John the Baptist, and his representation of strict discipline that really bridges up to Jesus, the spontaneity of love. Are you moved? Are you feeling excited and joyful? Yes, yes, this is the good news of today. And thanks to the Master, we are more joyful today than yesterday. Dear friends, we wish you a beautiful night or a beautiful morning, depending on where you are when you listen to this. And God providing, we'll be here tomorrow at midnight with another moment of the 30 days of good news with the Master. Much love to all.